Evening. How's everybody doing? Come on in. We're just getting started, so we'll give people a chance to log in before we get our today's show started. Hope everybody's doing well. We have a exciting show planned, and we have the incomparable Miss Jamie Kirk here with us. She always brings the insight. And at the end of today's show, I have a very exciting announcement. Um, Come on in, come on in. Checking all the different uh, thingamajigs here to make sure things up and running before we get started here. All right, looks like we're good to go. Um, all right, welcome everybody to a convo with B Mac. I always like to give a brief, history lesson, or so to speak, on how we got here. A convo with B Mac was started in August, September of 2021. I was going through a really difficult time in life. I was going through a divorce, and I really struggled just trying to figure things out. And I did not feel like I had a space or a place just to really, lean on to get support. So I had some really good friends that encouraged me to create a space for men that are going through just difficult times in life, not necessarily divorce, but going through difficult times. And fortunately, those friends encouraged me to create this podcast. And then I had some other terrific friends that are mental health professionals that were so kind to come in and add the clinical part of things to balance out the show. So I feel like we've done some really good things in the past few years, and looking forward to what the future holds. And tonight's episode is no different. We're going to talk about mental health and your accountability as it relates to mental health. And the title is Mental Health Explains, but it doesn't excuse. So it's just like what the topic says. We're going to get to the nuts and bolts of it. And without any further ado, we're going to bring in Jamie, and we're going to get started. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
I'm great, and yourself?
It's Sunday.
It is. Happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Whew. So, birthdays don't hit like they used to. I'm gonna say they hit a little harder. Let me just say.
Exactly. I was about to say they hit a little harder. We just don't bounce back like we used to.
Yes.
Back in the day, birthday, we party like it ain't no tomorrow, and then be like, hey, we need to do that again. Now it's like, yeah, let me get with y'all about 2, 3 weeks.
See, and I used to party. I used to start my birthday August 1st, and
Hmm.
don't judge me because I would go from August 1st to December 31st. Celebrating the rest of the year. Yes, it was always my birthday every time I went somewhere. They was like, "It's not your birthday." Yes, I'm still celebrating to the end of the year.
You monopolize around here, man.
Oh, not anymore. 2 days later, I was like, "I'm done. Birthday over."
I, let's see. We got a comment already. My frat brother, my good brother, Eric says it's always about what you have a passion for, sharing it, and others. The passion is to start helping helping others grows. Amen to that. And then Eric, he says, "Happy birthday, young lady. Hope you enjoy your
Thank you.
21st birthday anniversary."
Thank you. And I used to say it was the fifth, sixth anniversary of my 21st birthday. I don't. Where am I at now? Oh, maybe like the 23rd. Yeah, 23rd anniversary of my 20. That sounds old now. I gotta come up with something else.
Look, now you got to remix it again.
Yeah, the 23rd anniversary of my 21st birthday. That sound old. We're gonna try that something else. And then I was told that I'm midlife. And so I'm like, I'm midlife. Like I gotta have a crisis. So I'm trying to prepare for me a crisis. I gotta figure it out.
You- If you ain't got a crisis, don't wish one up. Don't conjure one up if you ain't got one.
What do you mean? That is the most exciting part of becoming midlife. Like, think about everybody that has a midlife crisis. They basically do everything they always wanted to do.
I guess you got a point. I guess you got a point. I'm gonna let you be great with that one.
They stop living in fear. They stop living in fear. They figure like life almost over. I need to not be fearful anymore. I'm just gonna do it.
Now, when you explain it that way, I can agree.
Yeah.
You know, it's now it's just, hey, I've been blessed to be here this long. I don't know how much longer I got, so I'm just gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get the car I always wanted, take the trip I always wanted. It's a crisis to the other people because they don't understand it.
Right. There you go. I can wrap my head around that.
Yeah, see, so I'm getting ready for a crisis. So I just can't afford one right now, but I'm planning it.
Mm, mm, mm. Okay. All right. Let's get to this topic. Mental health explains it. And mental health explains, but it doesn't excuse.
Mhm.
Often people will say, "Well, I have the, I have, let's see, what I have PTSD, or I have anger issues, or you know, they like to use the diagnosis, but like they like to skip over the accountability aspect of it. Like, well, you're supposed to accept this because of this.
Mhm.
And one of the things I thought about was two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
You can have your trust issues or whatever, but you can also can be accountable and say, well, yes, I have this thing going on and I'm working through. And yes, sometimes I may offend you unintentionally, but I can own it as well.
Yes. But today you hear a lot of people. It made me think about the song.
Hmm.
It's like that. And that's the way it is, right?
Right.
That's just how I am, right? That's just how
Hmm.
I am. You just want to accept me for me.
Hmm.
And that's making an excuse, right?
Hmm.
Making an excuse for my behavior. That's just
Right.
the way I am.
Right.
And so when people hold on, and I say this all the time, people hold on to their trauma, right? And they hold on to anger and all of these things as justification
Hmm.
for what has been done for them, and they
Right.
may be justified in the anger, but they're the only ones doing the time. They're the only
Right.
ones suffering the consequences, whether it's because I don't because I've been done wrong, I'm going to avoid these things, right? And so now I'm not going to live my life to the fullest. I'm not going to go places I want to go because it's
Hmm.
going to remind me, or people that I don't like going to be there. Like, it's always going to be where I can't live in my fullest capacity because I'm holding on to something that, and 9 times out of 10, this is where I get people.
Hmm.
People are holding on to it because they're taking it personal,
Mm. Mm.
and not just, you hear you was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm. Let's see. Eric says, your topic is fitting considering tragic incident occurred in Detroit, Michigan on Friday. 15-year-old brazenly shot two women, killing one. Many are using his actions as a cause of having lost his mom, but that doesn't excuse and does not justify shooting random people who didn't know.
But two things could be true at one time, at the same time,
Right.
right? He could
Hmm.
be if you've never been taught emotional regulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You never know how far your anger could take you.
Right.
Right? You never know how far your anger could take you. And so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's not justified, but when you understand that anger, rage, and no lack of regulation skills, right? And then on top of that, like we have a lot of undiagnosed um people, especially
Mm-hmm.
African American men. They're just passed off as angry,
Mm.
right? They're not looking at having mood disorders, bipolar, schizophrenia, and something as tragic as losing his mom can cause somebody for temporary psychosis.
Mm.
You hear temporary insanity.
Right.
That's true. Like something can really shock and trigger you, and you have different behaviors and you don't remember,
Right.
and it can trigger for months. It can be a day or it can be years.
Right.
So you know, I'm not going to judge him based off his actions, right?
Right.
I'm more so looking at the underlying cause of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think now if I put on my professional hat for a second, look, that is a heinous act. Because those two women have families. Had and one
Mm-hmm.
had, and you know, again, one doesn't excuse the other. And which is why it's so important that we start teaching our youth emotional regulation, and which means the older adults got to get their stuff together so they can start teaching the younger kids, because whether it's something related to him losing his mother or any other traumas he may have had, that doesn't excuse, you know, his actions.
No.
And because at the end of the day, you there's another family that's mourning their loved one for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas I'm very sympathetic from the standpoint of that young man, um, you know, I, I I still have to say, that doesn't excuse his behavior.
See,
And go ahead.
I would need more background,
Right.
because the first thing where we are quick to holler out emotional regulation,
All
right?
right.
But what about mental health disparities, right?
Mm.
Let's look at how people are talking about this with this young man, right? And they're,
Right.
this is unjustified and this, but let's talk about the woman who thinks she tried to kill her kids and then tried to jump off the building and end up paralyzed, right? And everyone is saying, well, she suffered from postpartum, she had depression, she was saying, right,
Mm.
all of these things, talking to therapists, on prescriptions, on all of these things. So they're like, but the mental health failed her. The mental health system
Right.
failed her.
Mm-hmm.
And why didn't it fail him?
Mm.
Right? Because I'm sure if he killed two women, I'm sure he has a history.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Did Were the behaviors just addressed, or were the underlining conditions addressed? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we can always say, well, he needs to learn emotional regulation, but if he has a mental illness, then
Mm-hmm.
it's just not learning emotional
Right.
regulation. Where's the mental health services?
Right.
So that's that's a slippery slope right there. Not condoning at all, saying what he did was right, right? But this wasn't just out of the blue,
Right.
right? This has been leading up, and
Right.
so this could have been prevented,
Right.
and not just teaching him emotional regulation,
Right.
mental health in his community.
Right. Agreed. Let's see. Eric gives another situation. A situation that involved a 57-year-old aunt deceased and her niece, who was with her, are also shot. Last situation was in Massachusetts. Um, Clancy, I hadn't heard much about it. He said I was. He wondered if it was a random act of counterfeit.
Just because he had no previous interaction with the law doesn't mean that he had no previous interaction with,
Mm-hmm.
right? It doesn't mean that he doesn't have a history of anger, aggression.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, and I agree with you. I think everybody likes to take a snapshot and run with every scenario. I think the court of opinion, the the public court of opinion is quick to make judgments without having all the facts, whether it be from a legal standpoint or whether it be from just a overall what was the catalyst for that particular situation. Now, again, and us having this dialogue, I want to make sure that everybody's understanding that we're not saying any of that is justifiable.
Mm-mm.
But were there indicators of some of these things but the system failed them?
But when we hear about shootings like this, the system has failed these people.
Hmm.
There's been a history of something. Think about all there was a history of something or a lack of something.
Hmm.
And
Right,
so
I agree.
a lot of things could have been prevented. People shouldn't have access to weapons, and because that want to be prevented, they're trying to protect the weapons. It's that's a slippery slope, right?
I agree.
Because there's no system to be able to run your background and see if you have, right, even if it's a history of depression, a history, there are certain diagnoses that you, there should be mental health services in play before you're able to access guns, right? And when they're noticing mental health issues, services should be put in place. Now, when people refuse services and then act as something, now that's totally different. But when they're not able to get services,
Right. Well,
yeah.
Eric says the family said he hadn't been the same since his mom died a couple months ago. He's
And
in.
I'm pretty sure they didn't get him any help.
Well, and that is the one thing, and we one of your specialties, grief counseling, and losing someone very close to you, especially if you're a younger person, and and that's the one person that's really, what I'm saying, been a mainstay in your life, that the one person you felt like that you could count on, that could send somebody in into a psychosis.
Yeah.
You know, um, again, that doesn't excuse it, but
No, it doesn't.
the family around that at that point, that's when you can't just say, well, they gonna be okay. Just got to pray about it. No, get them some help. You
Yeah,
can you can pray while you getting them some help.
yeah, like I say, God and mental health go hand in hand, right? And so I would never say because it was mental health, he should not be held accountable for his actions. No, he should be held accountable for his
Right,
actions, whatever the law states. But whatever the accountability is, they need to throw into mental health on top of it.
right. Of course. Don't. My thing is, regardless of what how the legal system plays out, which is I'm pretty sure, because if there was closed circuit TV footage of it, that's kind of open and shut case. But you know, get that person whatever help that you can provide while he's having to own his accountability for whatever. You
Yeah.
know,
Because you remember you being in that field, that prisons were supposed to be like rehab centers, right,
right, right,
for criminals. I mean, so and I understand, people, you do the crime, you do the time, but instead of just punishing for behaviors, teach new behaviors,
right.
right? Teach new ways to be able to process anger, frustration, because anger is a justifiable emotion, right? It's an emotion that God has given us, but
Mhm.
having the right tools to be able to process it so that ultimately, I'm really big on getting your needs met, right?
Right.
Because you're angry for a reason. You need something. And sometimes we let that anger really talk us out our needs.
Oh, definitely, because we get so fixated on anger,
Hmm.
we forget that. Well, this is I'm angry because I'm not getting a need met, but
Yeah.
as opposed to saying, let me use this opportunity to try to get my need met. I'm just committed to the anger aspect of it.
Yeah.
But let's, and we've already touched on the part, accountability in this case is is gonna be a part of this punishment. But I think accountability is getting him the help he needs so he can truly be accountable, so he can understand. Yes, I made a grave mistake. I made a terrible decision. So, but you want him to be in the right mental space so he can truly be accountable and not just
Hmm.
this person that's in this manic state or this angry state to where he just doesn't have any accountability.
Right, because if he hasn't been the same since his mom died, he just did this thing. He is high risk, right? He's high risk to suicide. Let's be
Right,
honest. He's
right,
high risk of suicide. And so without the proper mental health care, they're gonna have a suicide on their hands.
right. Because he in a certain sense that him doing that was a cry for help.
Right. And if that's not who he was, then that's gonna eat at him. If he wasn't a violent kid, if he wasn't this person, right? Then being living with that, because when they go to trial, they're gonna show all those pictures,
Oh, definitely.
right? And so that's gonna be another trauma on top of, and
Mhm.
for everybody,
Right, exactly.
the
For
fam,
him
because
and the family.
yeah, because I'm sure, you know, when as families, when we hear different things, yet we understand you've done this to our family, especially when you were a child,
Right.
right? And so it's just, yeah, it's
Well,
sad all the
well,
way
well,
around, like.
well, I'm gonna pivot just for a hot second. That speaks to another problem that we have just here in this country. Why is a 15-year-old able to get access to a gun so easily?
Probably in the
And
house.
well, whether it's in the house or not, it that's just a whole nother conversation for another. And that's that's my professional hat right now.
Yeah.
Um, it's America has a gun problem, but that's a whole nother issue for another day. You alluded to that a little earlier, but we gonna stay on topic because look, we'll go down that hole and ain't no end to that rabbit
Right.
hole.
You
Um,
go down there till you hit gold.
Nuke, thanks. He says he sent me the link. I'll check that story out, and I'm sure we'll talk about that some more. Um, my note here says self awareness without change eventually becomes another excuse.
Yeah. Yep.
Cause,
Mm-hmm.
cause how many times have you be like, well, I know I'm like this, and they to get people not to look for the accountability, only for them to turn around and do the same thing again, and they want to quote unquote own it without having to own it. Because go ahead.
No, I'm listening to what you're saying because I'm getting my thoughts. Right. Even when somebody accepts accountability, like, okay, I know I'm like this and I need to change.
Hmm.
Nothing happens overnight,
Right.
right? Change does not happen overnight. So if I know that I do something, right, and
Hmm.
I'm talking to myself, okay, I need to work on this. And
Right.
next week I do it, I'm not gonna beat myself up
No. No.
because it's been a pattern in
Hmm.
my life for years. And so
Hmm.
that's going to be my first natural reaction,
Hmm.
right? I'm going to have to do it. And then after I do it, like, shoot, I wasn't supposed to do that, right? And then I was going to have to do it again and be like, shoot, right? And then I'm going to have to be about to do it like, oh, shoot, right? And so it just take chopping it down. When we hold somebody accountable and then they accept accountability, we expect change overnight. We expect for
Right.
them never to do it again. But if it's been me, it's going to take some time for me to
Right.
develop new habits. What
Well,
is it say?
no.
It take 30 days to develop a habit.
Right.
So So it's gonna take me maybe a little bit longer to unlearn a bad habit.
Oh no, no. Now that part I completely agree with. I think a lot of times people will, well, I'm not gonna say a lot of times. Sometimes people will choose to try to own it for that moment, but not be willing to actually make those efforts to to do better. Say for instance, yeah, somebody who has a problem with lying, they get caught in a lie. All right, well, I just, my bad. I'm gonna shoot straight with you from now on, until the next opportunity comes up to where they know that they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They lie again, but they say they're trying to work on it. Because I think that there's two sides of the same coin. There are those that, yes, they need time and grace to allow them to work through it, but then there are those others that will simply try to manipulate the situation till they can't anymore.
Okay. Well, ask yourself this, and this is a question you can break down the threes.
Hmm.
Why do people lie?
Mm. Majority of the time, I think just in its essence, is a lot will be for self-preservation, for one reason.
People pleasing.
Uh huh. People
That's the number
pleasing.
one.
Uh huh.
People
Fear.
pleasing, right? Fear of abandonment,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
Sometimes it's to get what I want,
Right.
right? But
Right.
that's usually people that grew up a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we what do we call them? Oh shoot, my brain is it's Sunday, but people that they grew up not having,
Mm-hmm.
and so now they got to do whatever they got to do to get
Right.
it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Majority of the majority of people lie. It stems from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. I'm gonna go back to childhood.
Right.
It's either not feeling good enough,
Mm-hmm.
right, and not being in a space where you can feel good enough, so you put on this facade so that you can fit in,
Right.
so that you can have, so that you can, right? And so the way you think, fake it until you make it. come,
Right. Right.
come in at it. So if just say I'm okay, I want to work on lying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, lying is a character,
Mm.
right? And so if you know that I'm a liar, you shouldn't trust me anyway. So who really got the problem? Because you know I'm a liar, and then you keep coming, you keep expecting me to be something that I'm not.
Right.
And but then even give me grace to change, but expect me to be a lion because that's who I've always been. Right now, a lion can be tamed, right? But how many lion tamers have been bit before the lion done?
You got a very valid point.
Yeah. So if I know you're a liar, then I'm gonna have to, and I have to operate or engage with you. There's
Mm-hmm.
gonna have to be boundaries to this.
Right. I agree. And it's funny that you should say that because the next point I said the people around you are allowed to have boundaries too.
Mm-hmm.
So giving that grace for those that truly have accepted the accountability aspect of it. But the people that are in your life are allowed to have boundaries to say, hey, listen, these are the things I'm not going to tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
And if you violate those things, I have the absolute right to take a step back to say, okay, I'm not gonna deal with you in this shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah.
So understanding that you can't use your issue as a crutch to say, hey, you should feel sorry for me, woe is me, because of this. Yes, you understand I have it, but you know they have their that because the same way they have rights, you got rights because you got the right to continue doing whatever it is you want to do, and they got the right not to deal with that foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
So it what as my mom used to say, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Right. But I think what we also have to remember is that boundaries are not is not punishment.
Right.
Right. But the only people that may think it's a punishment is the people that didn't respect your boundaries.
Indeed.
Right. And I
Indeed.
think that's why some people are fearful with setting boundaries because they know setting boundaries is going to cost them the people that they're comfortable with,
Hmm.
even if they're not people that are assets for them.
Right.
Right? You're if you're comfortable living in hell,
Hmm.
then peace feels awkward.
That is, you're right. You know, if you're comfortable living in chaos, calm situations make you uncomfortable.
Yeah. Hey, you have some people that are so used to living in a chaotic household that as adults they have to sleep with the TV on because they're used to noise.
Hmm. Yep, I agree. And but it's the same with some someone who's unhealed. They're used to you know tumultuous types of relationships. When they meet someone who doesn't gaslight, like to argue,
Ooh, they
you,
don't
you
know
know
what to do.
they don't know what to do, and so they find themselves starting conflicts
Hmm.
because that's that's where they feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But you and I both know that's their unhealed part. Is saying, "Hey, we don't like this." They because they let's see what am I trying to say? They quantify that toxicity as love. That
Yeah.
conflict is love.
Hmm. Well, what do they see on TV now?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
They fighting and they in love. They fighting I saw a post that said if your man don't make you crazy, then he don't love you. I was like, what? Wait a minute.
Listen,
Wait a minute. Listen, I done had a man that made me crazy. I don't like that feeling. Right? I done been there. Mm-mm.
listen. Let me start out by saying, "Ma'am, nice to meet you." But if I gotta feel like I gotta be riding by your house at strange hours, or if I gotta be checking phones, you feel like you gotta check mine. We need to part ways right here. Just
Look,
I'm just not for. I'm not here for any of that. I'm.
yeah.
It's you know. I live a very peaceful existence, and I plan on keeping it that way.
Right. Like something like I've learned, and it's going by, mental health explains doesn't excuse.
Mm-hmm.
When people don't want to take accountability, I learned to let them be.
Mm.
Whatever story that makes you happy, and whoever agrees with your narrative, you already had an idea about me anyway, right? And that was really none of my business, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when this is how I knew, and I didn't have to really be crazy to realize that it's time to let go of this marriage,
Mm-hmm.
right? When your husband goes to sleep, but before he goes to sleep, he take his phone apart. If you got to take your SIM card and your battery out, I don't even need to go through the phone.
That the FBI calls that a clue.
Right, and there was need to be no argument. That it was just a gracefully bow out. Like I, we've been fighting too long. Now,
Right.
when we get to the point of
Mm-hmm.
this is where I had to take accountability.
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing in this?
Mm-hmm.
Where's my part?
Right. And you're right. Now, I hadn't targeted the men really in this conversation yet, but here's where I'm gonna go straight for the men.
Okay,
Men sometimes use silence both as coping mechanisms and as defense. And
stonewalling.
and you know, silence for men feels like a safe place for a
Mm,
lot of different reasons. Um, because sometimes we don't have the words, and sometimes we don't even understand what it is that we're feeling. So don't the add on top of we don't have the words. We we're so out of touch with our own emotions that, you know, we just like, I'm just gonna just be quiet, or I do you one better. You know, we're afraid,
Mm.
and the last thing any man wants to ever acknowledge is that he's afraid, that he fears something, because that goes completely against their masculinity.
Yeah.
And what I mean, that could be afraid of, losing a sick loved one, afraid of losing your significant other that you've been with, that you really, really, what I'm saying, love. But even though y'all are going through a tough time, whatever the case may be, but men have just we gravitate to silence because of that. And I say we because I've definitely been guilty of that. And um,
Mm-hmm.
and later on before we end tonight, I'll talk more about that. But you know, silence is great when you need to take a minute to collect your thoughts. But silence is not a shelter.
Mm-mm. It definitely is not. Um, it's a lot of men. It's different. There's a lot of angry men that think they're healed.
Mm. Well, let's talk about that the men that are angry. Let's if we're going to even if we're even going to address that. All right, anger is not even a real problem.
Is it right? It's deeper.
It's much deeper.
Right. So
So
that means you're not healed.
exactly, and but they don't want to see that part, because what you think you're angry at, that ain't even what you're really angry at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if but you've got to be willing to sit with yourself and all right, like, okay, yeah, I'm angry about this, but why am I so angry about this?
But this goes back to taking it personal,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Let's talk about if we talk about what they call adverse childhood trauma,
Right.
right? A person may hold on to bitterness and anger because they may have been physically abused, they could have been
Mm-hmm.
sexually abused or mentally abused.
Mm-hmm.
And so now then they grow with bitterness and resentment and anger and difficulty trusting people because they took it personal. Like it was a personal attack on them when
Mm-hmm.
actually they was gonna do that to anybody that was there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when you understand that it had nothing to do with you or who you are, or your value,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when you take it personal, you start looking at what's wrong with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why did it have to happen to me, right? And you start to really break yourself down. Like something must be wrong with me. I
Right.
must be X, Y, and Z.
Right.
When no, it had nothing to do with you. It had nothing. It doesn't bring down your value
Right.
because it had nothing to do with you
Right.
and everything to do with
Do with
them.
it. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so once we start processing that and taking you out of the equation,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just like if you ride down the street and you have a car accident,
Mm-hmm.
right? The car wasn't following you to ram you, right? You
Right.
just happened to be there,
You just
right?
have
And
in
so
proximity.
yes.
And I think that that particular aspect of it is what most people struggle with from a trauma standpoint, is
Mhm.
because they attach the two. You know,
Yeah.
this happened to me. They did this to me. You know, why me? Like
Why
they,
me?
you were specifically targeted,
Right.
and no, you just had the unfortunate aspect of being being there at that time,
Yeah.
or say, for instance, if we say whether it's say someone physically harmed you, or you dated this person and they weren't healed and they did whatever to you, that wasn't about you. That
Right.
was about they had baggage and stuff that they never healed from, and
Mhm.
they couldn't see that, but they ended up essentially bleeding all over you.
Yeah. You know, I had a client that I think he had an episode
Uh-huh.
and was cussing his wife out, right?
Uh-huh.
And so when they in session, the wife was confused, like he's saying all this stuff to me, but what he is saying to her
Uh-huh.
had nothing to do with her.
Uh-huh.
And when I asked him, like, who are you really talking to?
Uh-huh.
His mom.
Uh, uh,
I said the things that you said to her didn't apply to her because she doesn't do X, Y, and Z. So you're calling her names that applies to people that do X, Y, and Z.
right,
You state that you know she doesn't do X, Y, and Z. Who does X, Y, and Z?
right.
Right? Who was the person that did this that hurt you? And
Uh-huh.
so usually when someone even what we would say trigger,
Right,
right? Triggers something. It could be a scent, a sound, or anything that take you back to that moment.
right,
Then now the person that's in front of you gets the brunt of it.
right. But but very much like what we said, we understand that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And but that doesn't excuse. Yeah, we know that whatever triggered, and like you said, he was talking to his mom, but his wife was the on the receiving end.
Yeah.
We understand your trauma related to your mom, but that doesn't excuse the way you treated your wife.
Right. But
You
first
know,
he gotta know where it came from.
right? And
So
that's
now it's time to change. No more other excuses.
right,
You know what I'm
exactly.
saying?
Exactly. Because I put in here, healing requires repair, not just insight. So and if you're gonna heal, you got to figure, like
Mhm.
I said, you have to get to the root cause of it, because you can't heal from something until you know what's causing it. Like a doctor can treat symptoms all day, but
Yeah.
he can't get fix it. He can't quote unquote cure it till he figures out, okay, well, this is what caused this. Now, once I figure out what the cause is, now I have to come up with a treatment plan
Mm-hmm.
for that,
Right.
and that is healing, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and in that particular gentleman's case, your issue is with your mom, and for whatever you've got to be honest with yourself. Hey, these things happen, whether she was a verbally physically abusive, or you weren't there for me when I felt those things. You've got to acknowledge. You've
Mm-hmm.
got to get them out, preferably by journaling, in therapy, whatever the case may be. You may not be in a situation where you can actually have that conversation with your mom. If that's not the case, okay, cool. But go ahead.
No, go ahead.
but but you have to focus on those things that you can control as it relates to that.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, once I get to the root cause of whatever that is, now I've got to work on that.
Yeah.
I've got to be honest about those instances of whatever it is that's still playing in the back of your head, because clearly they are still
Still.
you know
Yeah.
and you've got to be able to name those, so you can that memory can be there, but you got to detach that hurt from it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's not just having the accountability, it's having the necessary tools.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me, when I was back in California, I lived in Riverside, and I was gonna have a birthday party in my
Mm-hmm.
backyard with my son. And so there was like this little tree, like a little, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what it was that was there. And so I just kind of like cut it, got the backyard together.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the next summer, it was back.
Mm.
And so I'm like, what's this? I thought right. And so then I started, when I went to pull it, I
Mm-hmm.
saw it was further under the dirt. Right. And so then I started digging and digging. and digging and realized, like, when I first cut it, I just cut it. I never
Right.
got to the root of it, right?
Mm.
So the root was actually attached to a tree next door, right? So somebody else's problem had came over into my yard, and
Mm.
because I didn't know the root of it, right? I
Right.
didn't realize it was somebody else's problem. I
Mm-hmm.
kept trying to chop away at it instead of realizing this is connected to somebody else, right?
Right.
And so now I need to go over there and dig up their root
Right.
over in that tree.
Right.
So that was a 2-1 right there. You heard that one right there, right?
Listen, look, I'm talking about look, your biblical side came out. You didn't preach the sermon. You over here talking about I was working on the surface, but what I didn't realize,
Right. That root was over there connected to somebody else. It
right,
started coming. Wait a minute, because that wasn't the moral of the story, but it started coming. Wait a minute, because that was somebody else's problem, right?
right,
But when you attach yourself, because although it was in somebody else's yard, we still had one ground. It was just
right,
separated by the gate. So when you attach yourself with the wrong people, you attach yourself to their problems.
exactly. So or when you're the victim of some type of mistreatment, somebody else's problem.
Woo!
You see what
Woo!
I'm,
Woo!
yeah.
It's I just said this the other day.
Mm,
It's some people that walk around with their own chalk.
mm,
They are always the victim.
mm.
Always the victim.
Right.
I'm like I know she got her own chalk. She just always drawing a chalk. And you were you were never. You was always the angel.
Right.
You were always the angel, and yeah, never any accountability. But what I heard is that that's the way she is.
Mm. But you and I both know that is an excuse. And hold on, we got Selena has chimed in. She said that dang Jamie Kirk. Yes, speak to the root of it. She said I learned while grieving my mom. Things I thought I was healed from were not truly healed.
Ooh. Healing is like an onion.
Mm-hmm.
It got layers.
Multiple layers. Yes.
Soon as you like, because it's like, soon as this is healed, something else be like, hey, what about me?
Right.
Right? Like when I wrote my memoir and I was writing it to just get off all of the negative stuff that I had been holding on to,
Mm-hmm.
other stuff started coming up.
Mm.
Stuff that I had to remember. I had to sit back and think like,
Mm-hmm.
am I tripping? Did that really happen?
Right.
Stuff that I didn't even remember, but
Mm-hmm.
had been kind of steering my life,
Mm-hmm.
right? People will tell you I'm very nonchalant. I stay to myself, right? I don't mind my own company.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that stem from?
Being in adverse situations and being around, you know, people that you're like, hey, yeah,
Yeah, or not being able to trust people in my life.
right.
When
Mm-hmm.
it goes down from the number one person, my mom. And so if I can't trust the people that's supposed to take care of me, then shoot, Lord knows what y'all do. And so I'm not in a place where I'm mad or bitter. Like, yeah, I support people I go out, but you see where I be at.
Right. What's up for this weekend? But,
Supporting birthdays. Birthdays are very important to me, especially after my dad died at 24.
right.
And so I decided I celebrate birthdays with people that don't get to celebrate them. There's a lot of people under the dirt
Right.
that could never celebrate another birthday. And
Right.
so it's just even though I may not be where I want to be in life, I'm not where I was. So I thank God for that. And so I start to celebrate. But
Right.
the other weekends is I'm been celebrating other people. So
Right. Well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Birthdays, I think, should be celebrated, but the one thing the caveat I put, it's up to each person how they choose to celebrate their birthday. I don't think it has to be specifically, oh yeah, you got to go tear the club down.
yeah,
Whatever it is, long as you commemorate your birthday in whatever fashion that is acceptable to you.
yeah. As long
Do
as you
something
honor
to
yourself.
not, acknowledge yourself. I'm one of those. I like to kind of keep a very low profile, but I do try to get out and do just a little something. If it's dinner with some friends or whatever on
Mm-hmm.
my birthday, just because it's a gift,
Yeah.
you know.
And what I could say about both of us is that every year we've grown,
Hmm.
and not just by age, right? Career wise, but emotionally, right? With
Right,
being able to regulate those emotions, you being in your field, me being in my field, and not being reactive,
right,
right? Because I'm pretty sure 10, 20 years ago you were a little bit more reactive than you are today.
much more reactive, much more.
Right. And so that goes with you not just saying, well, that's just who I am.
Mm.
Oh, I'm in law enforcement. Oh, that's my job and my career. And that's
Right.
why, no,
Hmm.
when you recognize, okay, I no longer want to be this person,
Right.
then you actually made the steps,
Hmm.
right? Because you had mentioned, when people want to change and then they keep doing the same thing. Because just because you want to do something don't mean you know how, and you don't
Right.
have the proper steps in the process to do it. And
Right.
so, it, some people have the mindset to create a process, and some
Hmm.
people need guidance, right?
Right.
And so I think that's where we come in, having these shows and telling
Right.
people it's okay to not be okay, but it's
Right.
not okay to not be okay, right? To accept
Right.
that you're not
Right.
okay. So once you realize, hey, I'm not okay, then it's up to you. What they say, your trauma may not have been your fault, but your healing is your responsibility,
Amen.
right? And so you can't just keep bleeding on people and then expect them for them to be okay with you, causing blemishing on them.
Right. I agree. I agree. Once you become aware of it, you are not on the clock.
Yeah.
You know, and if regardless of whatever the capacity may be, whether it's you know you're bleeding on your family, your significant other, whomever it may be, you owe it to yourself as well as them to do the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's healing is a journey. It's not a sprint. And understanding that
Hmm.
you know it takes time and
It, it
giving
does.
yourself grace and and saying every day will not be a rock star kind of day. Some
Yeah.
days it's gonna be I ain't even gonna get out the bed today. You'll just go back to sleep. We're gonna try this again tomorrow.
Right.
But being mindful enough to say, okay, I get it. Today's just not a good day. Not that I'm gonna quit, but to understand that I just don't have I need today to to make that step, and that's because that's just another form of giving yourself grace.
But yeah. Yeah. It being it, but you know what? A lot of people won't stop to do that because they're afraid of their thoughts.
Mm, you finna look. We supposed to be wrapping up. You finna start a whole. You didn't open up a whole new bag. Just
Right? Some people are just, think have you ever had anything happen and your brain just won't let you relax?
yep.
Yeah, we know how that feels. And so some people they don't have the tools to be able to battle that. And so they can just continue to keep themselves busy, right? Just running themselves, and then they're wondering why they're snappy, right? They're burned out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Mentally, emotionally, physically burned out.
Right.
Right? And then most people think that because they're not moving or not doing something, then that's wrong. Like, oh, I
Right.
always have to be doing something. But rest is doing something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taking time for your mental health. I tell my clients to call it my Sex in the City life. Because I wasn't a big fan of that show. I didn't watch it like that, but I did catch a few episodes.
Uh-huh.
But I remember in the opening credits, they would show each woman doing something. right?
Right.
One was journaling and drinking tea. I think one was doing a morning run, and another one had kids. But those were morning routines about being intentional about how you're going to start your day,
Mm-hmm.
right? Can you tell me, when you're intentional about starting your day, and you're intentional about starting it having a good day,
Mm-hmm.
how does your day usually go?
Me,
Hmm.
um, it probably starts with me getting up and getting the workout in. Getting up, you know, in plenty of time just to kind of slowly get my body a lot of time to wake up, get dressed, get to the gym, get me a good hour 15-minute workout in. And typically if I'm doing that, I feel like I have a really good day because that gym time is really just time for me,
Hmm.
you know, and because I go to the gym and I essentially turn the world off.
Okay. Now, when you wake up and you like, okay, I'm be intentional and I'm going to the gym and I'm going to have a good day.
Hmm.
When an obstacle comes, how do you respond?
This is after I've been to the gym.
Yeah, when you started off, your morning is
I
good and
was like, okay, well, let's deal with it. You know,
okay,
it's I don't really dwell on it. It's just like, okay, well, whatever it is, all right, let's deal with it and keep pushing.
right? Now, let's say you wake up and everything went wrong. You didn't make it to the gym. You woke up late. You rushing to work, and then an obstacle comes. How do you deal with it?
Oh, I'm probably gonna complain. I'm huffing and puffing and complaining like this is stupid. You know why in the so my mindset is completely different.
And that's why I always encourage be intentional about how your morning starts.
Hmm.
Because the same obstacle could have came, but because how you started your morning
Right,
determined how you responded to the obstacle.
right. Agreed. Agreed.
So
So
be intentional.
look, you done low key gave me a quick therapy session, and we ain't even supposed to be doing all that. See, I told you about that. I told you, but um, we are close to the hour, and so we're gonna get ready to wrap up. And before I wrap up today, I wanted to announce to any and all that are on. I've been working on a project for some time now. Jamie's been aware of it, and but I've really kept it close to the vest. But now it's time because we've completed. I have written a book. It is called "This Ain't Weakness," and the book will be released on Amazon September the 14th, on Kindle and paperback. Hold on, I'm going to see if I can upload the image here because this is some. Hold on, I don't want to do that. But this is something that I really worked on, and we were talking earlier and about silence and all those good things. Um, there's an aspect to that. Um, there's a good thing about sitting in silence. You know, shout out to Jamie because Jamie really helped me a whole lot. Uh, when I first talked to her about the book, she was like, "Oh yeah, you should do it," and she's been very encouraging. So I really appreciate it, uh, and gave me a
Definitely proud of you. Definitely
thank,
proud of you.
thank you. I'm I'm excited and nervous all at the same time because anytime you put something that's from the heart out there, you want it to be received well. But much like with this podcast, my thoughts are it's for whoever it's meant for. Everybody else, you know, it's okay. Selena says, I'm buying the first copy. So proud of you, brother. Thanks,
Nope,
sis.
Selena, second copy. You got to get the second copy. I'm bothered.
So I I'm contemplating possibly the next episode, allowing you to interview me on on the book. I hadn't really decided on that part yet, but I'm excited about the book. I'm excited the possibility of who it can help. But because it really talks about that internal accountability of us men and us finding out what that anger is about, what that avoidance is about, and
Mhm.
so we can truly be the best version of ourselves. And I will say this, probably my favorite chapter in the book is called Borrowed Worth. And Borrowed Worth talks about our identity being tied to everything except for who we are as a human being. And
Mhm.
so there's some really good things in there, and I look forward to getting the feedback from people as they read it. But yeah, that's that. So
Round of applause. How does it feel to publish your first book?
um, surreal.
Mhm.
I still kind of like, man, how did I get here? Especially, just figuring out how it came about.
Mhm.
But we're here, and I'm very, very appreciative, very thankful for each and every person that poured into me along the journey, that gave me guidance on, yeah, do this, do that, yeah, and like, yeah, you should do this. So I'm really appreciative.
And so, this just the first.
Hold on, slow down, cowgirl. Slow down, cowgirl.
Listen, I had the bug, man. I had the bug. What was the last 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
I, I had the bug. I did 4 books in like 2 years.
So listen,
So,
don't. Well, you keep that bug over there.
nope, I'm throwing the bug to
No,
you.
no, listen. I'm, I'm, I'm really thankful that that one came to life. If the Lord sees fit for me to do a second one or whatever the
We
case,
already talked about it. He already saw fit. Don't get over here like if the Lord sees fit.
you know,
It is already sought. The fit is already
ma'am,
sought.
listen, I've got to make sure the people get this one first. Hold on, I can't,
Listen.
I can't lose focus on TAW. I got to make sure that it reaches the appropriate the proper hands,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then we'll go from there. So
I'm gonna get off your case.
thank you, I appreciate it. I'm over here about to sweat. I appreciate it. Had to turn the app a little bit. Had to turn down a little bit. But but seriously, thanks each and every person that supported me on this, that gave me guidance, that believed in it, even when I was just like, I don't know, So it truly takes a village, even when you're an adult. You need a support system. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Are you doing pre-sale?
Kindle is pre-sale. Um, for whatever reason, Amazon won't let you do pre-sale on paperback, but Kindle is pre-sale. Paperback, it goes live at 12 a.m. on 9/14/26. Um, I'll be I'll be promoting it on all socials starting tonight.
Right. I, I'll tell you some other stuff when we done.
Okay, so okay, but with our with all hearts and minds being clear, nobody has any more comments. We gonna wrap it up, and we gonna let a, a pistol apostle Kurt say the prayer to take us out.
Oh, he
You
could put me on blast.
you and already did the sermon about the root, so come on.
About the okay. Well, Father God, we come to you thanking you for today's episode and the people that attended. We are speaking life into this book right here, Father God. We know that the men need it. You called it. You gifted him with it, and we're gonna speak life over this. Success is gonna be around the world, Father God, because you said if you created they will come, Father God. And we are speaking life. And we thank you for everyone that tuned in, Father God. And we are just going to praise your name in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. God bless y'all and good night.
Good
Peace.
night.